Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Nikki here, and today I have a little craft project for you, but I'll just give you a quick little background as to why I made the tags and journal cards that I have done. Louise Heinzel and Artie Mays are in the middle of creating nautically, mermaidy, oceany themed journals this month. And of course I decided I had to hop on the bandwagon because I love all things ocean. So it started off, Louise Heinzel has created this stunning kit that has a nautical theme, and there is definitely some mermaids involved, but it's not your typical mermaid kit. It has a vintage vibe. Here's a really good example. One of the sheets, this is one of the sheets in her kit. Actually, that one's quite dark on camera, I've noticed. How about I pick one of the lighter ones? This might. Have a look at this artwork that she's created. It is amazing. So there is mermaids involved, but not your normal sort of almost childish style mermaids. And there's definitely a vintage theme. So I thought, we're going to have a go at creating an ocean journal. I've decided not to just do mermaids, I'm doing an ocean journal. And when it's finished, I'll explain to you sort of what I envisaged in my head. I also had another kit that I purchased off Etsy literally years ago. I found it on my computer by accident, but honestly, have a look. Is that not a match made in heaven? So I will be using both of those kits. We printed those off, and I have my book cover, which I have gutted, ready to make the cover. Just so happens it has a dark blue colour, even though you probably won't see any of that by the time I'm done, but I thought, right, that's the perfect book. And it works out that 12 by 12 papers, or a piece of A4 paper folded in half, is a perfect fit for this book. So I definitely had to go and use that one. I have already created 3 signatures, and they're all slightly different, and there's a reason for that, and I'll explain that when I eventually do my flip through. But I have collected together all sorts of different papers and things, so now it's time to make some ephemera to go with it. So I got out a manila folder and my watercolours, and how about I move this out of the way first quickly? That might be a good idea. And I decided to have a play to create some different tags and journal cards. So that's a good example of what I sort of ended up with after my paint play. That is I've cut this down into a journal card. It's a random size. I'm sure every one of my journal cards is a different size, but that's okay. Rounded the corners, and this is one that I have not altered in any way. What I'm doing here is just making like tag and journal bases, which I will embellish fully as I am creating. But that's what I started out with. That's that one there. Then I was about to tip the water out after I had made this, because I was a very naughty girl. I left my brush soaking in it overnight, and I went, hang on a minute. So I actually used just the dirty blue water from my little water cup, and I painted it on this just to tone down that very clean manila folder colour. And I love how that turned out. Then I got my distress ink out, and I started with this one. That's just been very lightly covered, just again to slightly tone down the brightness of the manila folder. Then this one's a little bit darker, just a little bit, and I have already sewn around the edge of that one. It's always a good idea, if you want some sewn tags, to sew them before you put a lot of embellishments on it. Now, here's another journal card, which I coloured in a lot more and gave it a much more darker vintagey look. And I've also stamped on that half of the wheel in a sort of, it's a coppery bronze colour. Love how that turned out. Then I've got one here. This is a la naturel with just the water splatters on it. And then I used my distress ink and a stencil, and just coloured in that coral. Again, remember, these are just bases. They will get glorified later on. Then the next thing I did, I wanted some of them a little bit darker. So I added some more paint with a very dark blue. And then I have just glued on 2 pieces of ephemera that were in my stash. They do blend in. It might be a little bit hard to see completely on the camera, especially this one, but they blend in beautifully, and I will embellish even further, don't you worry. Then I got my stamps out and did some embossing. So I just stamped 3 shells onto this one and used some gold embossing powder and have embellished that one. Then I have this one here where I have just done some collage with some little scraps that were sitting on my desk just to do something a little different. So that's just using up some scraps glued straight on top of the watercoloured tag. Then I have another one here. This time I used, it's called a light moulding paste, and I actually spread that on through a stencil and let it dry for a little bit, and then just use some watercolour to colour in those sea plants. What's the word for that? Are they just, no, I'm not sure. But again, they've melting nicely into the background, but that's the whole idea. Just trying out some different things to see where I would end up. And then the lucky last one that I've got here, because I've made a ton more, but I think this is enough in this colour scheme. This one here, again, I have just laid down some scraps. This is tissue, the backs of tissues that I had sprayed some paint onto, and this is a little leftover piece from another project I did. Again, just a collage arrangement, and I will add more to them later. So to do the background, I thought I would show you how I did it, and the reason being is I have done all these beautiful blue shaded ones, which of course are perfect for an ocean journal, but because this journal is definitely going to have some vintage vibes, I thought I would show you how easy it is to do. And I'm going to do this in browns. So anyone that loves vintage things, this one will be perfect for you. And keeping in mind, you can just pick whichever colours you want. Just match it to your theme. If you're doing a botanical journal, use greens and browns. To sort of represent foliage in behind all sorts of pretty flowers and things. I mean, you can do whatever you like. Now, all I have here is my water cup. I've got an old, soft, thick brush, and I am going to start with sort of some lighter colour first. Now, I'm just using my El Cheapo water paints here. This set I got many years ago from Big W. And honestly, for crafty projects, it is the best. And we literally just splodge on some paint. A bit more water. These are still dry. I haven't activated them yet, so we probably should have done that first. But that's okay. Now I can see I must still have a hint of blue in my brush, but I don't have an issue with that. And then over we go. We just splodge and press. That's all you have to do. Over and over. And so what I do is I start off with a few layers of lighter colour, and then I build it up a little bit darker. Now I have used one of these plastic protective sleeves because I like the thickness of these. But if you, and I've got hundreds of them, so I don't care if I destroy one every now and then. If you don't have one of these, this is a great way to use up leftover plastic packaging. Now, you don't really need a lot of paint, just a little bit. Smush it all around. There we go. And we might do a little bit more in this lighter colour. But what I'm going to do is use less water now and just a bit more colour. It's also getting a bit lighter now. Obviously, whatever leftover blue I had is now dispersing nicely. Oh, there we go. Move it around. Don't forget your edges. I did that with the blue ones and I thought, oh, should have got a little bit closer to the edge. But look, again, you're just creating a fun background, so it really doesn't matter. So now we're going to go for a darker colour. Over we go. Now, you can also do this if you have water-based markers. You can use those. You can use your distress oxides. If you don't have watercolour paint, it doesn't really matter as long as you create some colour. And it's so easy to do. And you end up with a lot of tags from one manila folder. Now, if you prefer something crisp and white, there's no reason why you can't just use some cardstock or cardboard. I just sort of liked the idea of this vanilla colour, so to speak, as my background, so it's not so stark white. But you can do this with anything. And then once you've finished with this, all you have to do is let it dry for a little while and then chop it up. I actually got my guillotine out, but you can use a paper cutter. You can use anything you like. Of course, the beauty of using a manila folder too is that it's a very good thickness. It's great for making tags and journal cards without them being too bulky, but it has nice thickness to it. If you make these with paper, you're going to have to back every one of them. Now, of course, that is time consuming and we don't all have time for that. So I thought a manila folder was a great way to do this with a nice weight. So they're not going to be too bulky in your journals. Now, I think we need to go we'll go a next level up. I've got a really dark brown here. This is a rich brown. I've also got a sort of grey brown, which I think might be a nice new addition too. See, this is actually fun to do too. I love making a mess. And this is, I mean, have a look at that colour. Fabulous background for vintage style pieces. And then if you have a particular tag and you want to lighten things up a little, you can always put a bit of gesso or add some extra paint. If you want to add different colours, you can also do that. Just get your paintbrushes out once it's dry. Now we're going to go, this is another brown. Browns are good. This little pan, honestly, I think this costs about $15 here in Australia. $14 or something at Big W. It is fabulous, especially for messy things like this, where you don't need, you know, superb quality outcome. You just want to have some colour fun. Go. Voila. And I think I might just about leave this one. And then I may even add some little hints of blue to this one because I'm going to be using them in this nautical journal. But there we go. Have a look at that. It's fun. It's easy. And then once this is dry, just give it a couple of hours. It'll be dry. It makes a fun background, and then you can just chop them up into any size you like. You might also want to use this to make some pockets. So just cut out whatever size you need. And there we go. It's as simple as that. This is a great project to do. If you're bored one day and you can't decide what to do, create some of these, just make some backgrounds. You don't have to embellish them completely, and that way build up a stash of backgrounds so that when you actually want to make a particular thing, you already have all your background work done. All you have to do then is stick down the pretty stuff. Nice and simple. If you enjoyed this video and you are not a subscriber, I would love it if you would join the family. I do paper crafting and paper planning videos. And if you did enjoy this, please give it a thumbs up. It does help other people discover my videos. And until next time, please stay safe and stay healthy. Bye for now.